shit, said Dr. Marcacius. I then made a Y with my other hand, because I can tell you were in pain, and I want to do something about it, but we have no water, said Dr. Marcacius. It took a few minutes, but Dr. Marcacius figured out what to do next. George, asked Dr. Marcacius. Yes, answered George. Can you please get me the first aid kit from the restroom? Asked Dr. Marcacius politely. That will require for you to take the lantern, answered George. Okay, said Dr. Marcacius. The room then got darker because Sam then took the lantern, but thankfully I was able to keep it light through the light of my phone, and I need to type something into the notepad of the phone. My pinky is going numb, I typed into the phone. Hold on, we are just waiting for George to get back here, responded Dr. Marcacius. George then returned. Here you go, said George. Thank you, said Dr. Marcacius. Dr. Marcacius then put some ointment on the band-aid, and then he wrapped my finger in it. I gave a pinky up. Do you mean what I think you did by that? Asked Dr. Marcacius. I nodded. You are welcome, said Dr. Marcacius, who I could tell was trying to hold down laughter because of the seriousness of what is coming up. Just laugh, said the return. How did you know I was holding down laughter, said Dr. Marcacius. I'm your grandmother, I know everything, said the return. But decency, said Dr. Marcacius. Okay, maybe that was stirring the pot a bit. Excuse me, the return asked. You heard correctly, said Dr. Marcacius. Why would you say that? Asked the return. Because you are not a decent person, answered Dr. Marcacius. Why? Asked the return. Dr. Marcacius then grabbed the return and shoved her to the window. Take a look at that, said Dr. Marcacius. They are after me because I'm doing what any mother who doesn't want to lose her kid should do and save their kid, said the return. That did for me, and the thing is that the worst part of being a witness to all this is the bad behavior, you see. I then picked up my gun and pointed at them. Holy shit, Sam, put that down, said Dr. Marcacius. I then did as Dr. Marcacius said. What the fuck, Sam? Dr. Marcacius asked. He probably is making a point about you two arguing. Are you, Sam? Dr. Marcacius asked. No, answered George. Then shut up, said Dr. Marcacius. Okay, said George. Dr. Marcacius then turned to me and he looked really angry at me. Were you really going to fire it? Asked Dr. Marcacius. I nodded no. Were you going to fire? Were you really going not to fire it? I then brought out my notepad on my phone again. I just answered no. Was what it said on the notepad. Why? Dr. Marcacius asked. Why what? I typed into the notepad. Why did you just point a gun at me? Dr. Marcacius asked. To stop it, I typed in all capital letters into the notepad. Why didn't you do anything, Hannah and George? Because we were just too preoccupied with other things and have too much on our minds, said Hannah and George. Sad but true, said George. Oh shit, said Dr. Marcacius. What is it? Hannah asked. Dr. Marcacius then broke down crying again. What is it? George asked. We have officially lost sight of what is important, said Dr. Marcacius through tears. Why? Hannah asked. Because if Sam is willing to point a gun at me in the return just to get our behavior under control, then we know we fucked up, said Dr. Marcacius. So, am I the right one? I typed into notepad. Yes, said Dr. Marcacius. Dr. Marcacius then began hugging me while he was crying. I am sorry, said Dr. Marcacius. I wasn't paying attention, but I think I knew what he was sorry for, but I was just pointing the gun at him to teach him a lesson. You should probably apologize to me too, said George. I am sorry, George, said Dr. Marcacius. Thank you, said George. I am sorry I didn't recognize that is what you wanted, said Dr. Marcacius. It's okay, said George. I know, said Dr. Marcacius. Then why are you crying, said George. Because I fucked up, said Dr. Marcacius. A few minutes later, Dr. Marcacius then stopped crying. Okay, guys, I'm going to say ground rules, said Dr. Marcacius. What is it? George asked. I am going to open the door, and I am going to make sure it is opened even if I get burned. Are you sure? Hannah asked. Hey, you still need to apologize to me, said the return. I still want to point a gun at the return, but I'm not going to because unlike here, I am a decent human being, just vicious. I hissed at the return. Okay, Sam, you need to stop, said Dr. Marcacius. I then began looking at Dr. Marcacius. Stop, said Dr. Marcacius again. I then gave Dr. Marcacius a thumbs up. Look, I know it has been a rough day for us, but that is all about to change forever, said Dr. Marcacius. I nodded and smiled. Can I ask you a question, Dr. Marcacius asked. I nod. Can you stop talking, monster, now, Dr. Marcacius asked me. I gave a thumbs down. Why? Dr. Marcacius asked. I then gave out my phone. I then got out my phone. As I am typing in my notepad, it dies, so I just toss away. You're not going to answer me because your phone just died, Dr. Marcacius asked. I nodded no, that he is correct, to signal that he is correct. Should we bring the lantern in? George asked. No, answered Dr. Marcacius. Why? George asked. They can probably use their own phones, answered Dr. Marcacius. How do you know that? George asked. I just do, answered George. Okay, answered George. Can I come in? The return answered. There was a pause as I could tell Dr. Marcacius was thinking about it. You know what? No, because I am sure she wants to see you less than any of us, said Dr. Marcacius. That 180 is what you just said, said the return. Yeah, but the thing is that your daughter thinks you are a cunt, and cunts are not welcome in her room, said Dr. Marcacius. I actually agreed with Dr. Marcacius, but I didn't say anything like that because, he just said 180 a lot of things, but I don't want to call him out. I am pretty much ready, said Dr. Marcacius. So this is it? Hannah asked. This is it, said Dr. Marcacius. Dr. Marcacius, George, and Hannah then went to the door to the bedroom. Before we enter, I want to make sure of something, said Dr. Marcacius. What is it? Hannah asked. Dr. Marcacius then touched the doorknob with his, pointer finger. Is it hot? George asked. Hotter than warm, but not enough that it will burn you, said Dr. Marcacius. Dr. Marcacius then turned the doorknob slowly and then opened the door to make sure that it was unlatched. What are you doing? Hannah asked. Listening to see if they are awake, said Dr. Marcacius. I listened in, nothing. Is it safe to enter? George asked. Yes, answered Dr. Marcacius. We then all entered my parents' bedroom. Can I ask you a question? Dr. Marcacius asked. What is it? Hannah asked. Do you want to lunge into their bed gently to wake them up? Dr. Marcacius asked. Sure, said George. I don't care, said Hannah. I gave a thumbs up. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, said Dr. Marcacius. Yeah, said George. We then all lunged into our parents' bed. Oh, George, said Hannah. We then all laughed as we could see that my parents had been awakened and had begun to move.